we've flattened the curve. No, I'm not talking about the virus. I'm talking about sports cards. And in today's episode, I'm going to show you the 5 most popular sports cards and how their prices have not only flattened, but they're now starting to go back up a little bit again.
My name is Jeff Wilson. By day, I invest in tech companies. And at night, I invest in sports cards. Join me on my journey to profit from the hobby we all love.
Sports card investors, you got a little extra hello today because I am excited because we are starting to see a lot of sports cards start to go back up in value a little bit. And this is a fun episode for me to do because after weeks of seeing sports cards fall in value and fall in value and fall in value a little bit more, we have plateaued. And we're starting to see a little bit of an uptick. So maybe this means that people are optimistic. Maybe this means that the outlook of the world around us is a little bit brighter today than it was a week or 2 or 3 ago. Maybe there's a little bit less uncertainty. And yes, as a country, we still have a lot to go through. We still have some dark days ahead of us, but there is some reason to be optimistic. The stock market obviously has gotten a little bit better. The government stimulus package is hopefully going to help out a lot of people and a lot of small businesses. And maybe the finish line for this whole entire thing is in sight. Still a little ways away, but maybe it is in sight. And that is the optimism that perhaps has people in the sports card market starting to buy cards again and starting to think about cards and card value starting to go back up a little bit. I hope that is what we are seeing. Now, overall transaction volume is still down. So the number of people buying cards, there are still not as many cards being sold, but prices are starting to go back up a little bit. So let me give you some of the raw data. Every week on eBay, I have been tracking the number of sales of cards that I have been looking at in my Market Movers data tool database. So across all of the key cards that I'm looking at in Market Movers, which are all of the key players and their key rookie cards, the volume of those cards week over week that are being sold online is dropping. Less and less cards are being sold every week. And this past week was no exception. This past Sunday, yesterday, there were 44% less cards sold on eBay than the Sunday before. And that Sunday, there were 21% less cards sold than the Sunday before it. And that Sunday, there were also less cards sold than the Sunday before it. So we have seen a pretty significant drop in terms of volume of cards being sold. But for the first time in the last few weeks, we are also not seeing that type of dip with prices. In fact, we are starting to see prices plateau and start to go back up a little bit. Now, it's difficult to know if what we're seeing right now is sustainable when more cards start hitting the market. Is this that things are actually turning around and that people are getting optimistic and they're starting to buy cards again? Or is this simply that because there are less and less and less sports cards on the market every week, that finally supply has gotten so low that demand is beginning to exceed supply? And if supply opens back up, by people putting cards back on eBay for sale at prior levels, will then the demand not be able to keep up with the supply and prices might dip again? I don't know for sure. I can't predict it. But what I will say is that I am optimistic that we are seeing the most key players in the hobby, for the first time in weeks, their card prices start to trend back up a little bit. And today I want to show you those players. So the number one most popular player in the hobby right now in terms of card transaction volume is Zion. No big surprise that Zion is our number one guy, but let's take a look at what Zion's card prices have been doing. So here we're taking a look at my Market Movers data tool, and we are looking at Zion's base PSA 10. This is Prism from this year. We'll go full screen with the graph. This is his base PSA 10. And so as you know, by watching my episodes the last few weeks, Zion has been dropping and dropping and dropping and dropping and dropping. And if you go back to his high point, which is on March the 10th, so about 3 weeks ago, this card was selling for $881. This card, as of about a week ago, was all the way down to $495. So a gigantic decline over the last few weeks. But look at what has happened over the last 7 days. That pattern has not really continued. In the last couple of days, we've actually seen prices go back up. And a card that 7 days ago was going for $495, yesterday was going for $532, and the day before was going for $556. So we have seen a plateau here lasting a little bit over 7 days, with a little bit of an increase here the last couple of days. Now, this is not just Zion's base rookie card that is behaving this way. If we change the search over and we take a look at his silver in PSA 10 instead, we're going to see a very similar pattern on our graph, where you can see here that, again, we had a high point back in early March, and then we saw a huge decline in these card prices. But we have seen a little bit of a plateau and a slight increase in these card prices over the last few days. So this is looking again at the number one most popular guy in the hobby right now is Zion. Does this hold up for the other most popular players in the hobby? Well, let's look at the number two guy. In terms of his cards being sold right now on eBay, the number two most popular guy is Ja Morant, Zion's counterpart in this amazing 2019 NBA draft class. Let's take a look at Jawz cards. This is Jaw's graph of his Prism Basketball 2019 base PSA 10. And what you will notice is a very similar pattern to Zion, where these cards peaked in Jaw's case around March the 8th at $453 and hit a low point March the 23rd at $243. But since that day, we've seen a little bit of upwards movement. And yesterday they were selling for $269, and the day before they were selling for $275. So we're seeing this plateauing effect with a slight increase the last 7 days in Ja Morant's cards, just like we were with Zion Williamson's cards. So does this effect exist across other people in the hobby as well? Now let's look at the third most popular guy. And of course, I'm going basketball here again, but for all of you fans of baseball out there, don't worry, there is a baseball guy we're going to be getting to in a minute as well. The third most popular guy in terms of transaction volume in my Market Movers data is Luca Dhansak. So let's take a look at Luca's cards. Is he following a similar pattern to Ja and Zion? And the answer is yes. What you see on the screen here is Luca's Prism base from 2018 in a PSA 10. And he did not have as big of a drop as Ja or Zion. Luca's peak was on March the 9th. So right around the same time of Zion's peak and Ja's peak. We had Luca's peak right around the exact same time. On this card, his peak was $615. And then that went down, if we go back about a week and a half ago, or a little bit over a week ago, that got down to $397. So it was still a very significant drop, not quite as big of a drop as Zion percentage-wise, but still very significant. But since that point in time, about a week and a half ago, these cards have leveled out. And as you can see on the graph, we are now in a plateau period. And in fact, yesterday, these cards sold for $401, and the day before they sold for $409, and the day before that, they were selling for $420. And these are the same cards that were selling for $397 on March the 20th. So we are in a plateau, slight increase period with Luca, just like we were with Zion, just like we were with Ja. Does this hold up in other sports? Well, the fourth most popular guy in my market movers database in terms of total transactions of cards sold on eBay is Ronald Acuna Jr., the great baseball player for the Atlanta Braves who a lot of people are chasing. And let's take a look at his 2018 Topps Update base card in PSA 10, which is his highest transaction volume card. And you can see a very similar pattern to his graph. Now, his peak in prices was March the 8th. So again, the same point in time when Zion was peaking and Jawz was peaking and Luca was peaking, Ronald Acuna Jr. was peaking. And very much like those guys, he has seen a decline. Now, his low point was March the 24th, so about a week ago. But since that point in time where he hit his low point, his cards have actually gone back up slightly. Now, his cards back on March the 8th were $265 for this Topps Update 2018 base PSA 10. And in his low point a week ago, they were $147. So a pretty substantial drop. Well, yesterday, these cards were $153, and the day before, they were $150. So you can see we've plateaued, have gone back up slightly on Ronald Acuna. Let's look at a final player. Let's look at the fifth most popular player in terms of popularity. Can you guess who that would be? So let's see. We've done Zion, we've done Jawz, we've done Luca, and we've done Acuna. Those are the four highest, most popular players that I am tracking in my market movers data. Who do you think is number 5 in terms of popularity right now in terms of eBay sales? You might have guessed it. It's Trey Young. Basketball remains super, super hot, and Trey Young is in that number 5 spot. Trey Young is an interesting one to look at because look what Trey Young has done in recent days. Not only did Trey Young follow the same basic pattern of Luca and Zion and Jawz and Acuna, Trey Young's prices peaked on March the 10th. So again, right around that same period of time. Now I am looking at his Prism basketball base, PSA 10 from 2018. Those cards were $247 on March the 10th. They got all the way down to a low point on March the 24th of $153. Same day, by the way, that Acuna hit his low point. And right around the same time that, these other guys like Zion and Jawz hit their low points. It's amazing how similar this data is across all of these different players. It's all following the same pattern when we're looking at the most high transaction volume players. But what's interesting with Trey is Trey has actually seen his cards go up a little more than any of those previous 4 guys. These cards that were $153 on March the 24th were $173 and $176 over the last couple of days. So Trey actually has not only seen the plateau effect that the other guys have seen, but he's seen a little bit more of an increase over the last week than some of those other guys have seen. Could that be because I've been flashing around Trey Young cards on some of my videos and because I've been talking about how Trey is one of my favorite players and how I think he's going to be great someday? I don't know, maybe. Maybe that's why. Or maybe those of you out there just simply on your own have concluded and deduced that Trey Young is a great player. I don't know what it is, but certainly interest in Trey Young has picked up and his card prices have picked up a little bit as a result as well. So whatever the reasoning, the fact that all of these guys are following the exact same pattern in terms of a high point right around the same point of time, a low point right around the same point of time, then a plateau, and now a slight uptick, I find very interesting and I find very compelling. And I'll tell you what that means to me. If you are in the financial position to do it, and please, folks, please listen to this message. If you're going to invest in sports cards, it is risky. We don't know what the market is going to do from here. Things could go down again. And sports cards are, they're a risky investment, right? They are a risky investment when you're investing in something like a sport card that is a collectible. So only take this advice if you are in a sound financial position, if you have your job, if you're confident you're going to maintain your job, and if you have the ability to continue to play in this market and not have a drop affect you if another drop occurs. But if you're in that position, I really think now might be the time to buy again. And again, I don't know what the stock market's going to do in the next couple of weeks. Interestingly, this pattern has somewhat followed the pattern of the stock market. Not exactly, but it is interesting that last week when we finally saw some upwards movement in the stock market, we're seeing some upwards movement in sports card prices as well. So we don't know what the stock market's going to do in the next few weeks. We don't know how much longer we're going to be quarantined for. We don't know when this thing is going to be over. So there is still risk. But if, like me, you are looking for savvy opportunities to start investing in sports cards, I'd start thinking about it again now, because the fact that we have plateaued and are starting to see a little bit of an uptick, this could be an interesting time to pick up some players at a pretty steep discount compared to where they were a few weeks ago. And if you would like advice on what players you should start buying, in my opinion, then you need to join my membership program, because for only $9 a month, I give you every single week my top card pick of the week. And I give you great data and insights like the ones you saw today. You get reports emailed from me every week with these types of data and insights and insider information about what is going on with the hobby and card prices. So if this interests you, consider joining my membership program. And if you would like full access to this Market Movers data tool so you can go in and check prices 24/7, that is available as well. On the next tier of my membership program, it's called my Market Movers tool. Go check all of it out. Go to my website, sportscardinvestor.com, and click on the membership link in the main menu bar. Again, go to sportscardinvestor.com and click on the membership link in the main menu bar. And of course, subscribe to this podcast and this YouTube show, and hit the little bell notification icon on YouTube if you haven't already, because you are going to want to stay in the loop with these price changes that are occurring and how the market is shifting. And I'm going to continue to bring you videos like this to keep you informed. Hope you are safe and sound. Hope you and your friends and your family are safe and sound, and you are all optimistic about the future, not just of sports cards, but of us being able to get back to a normal life as a society. I hope you are doing your part and staying quarantined so that we can get back to that point more quickly. There are brighter days ahead, my friends, and I'm starting to get optimistic that those brighter days will be here sooner than we think. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you back in a couple days with my next episode. Take care.